of a lot of progress, and of course a lot of questions have also been raised on some of the policies, government policies to improve the economy, and of course the levels of investment, and what 2014 also has in stock for us. With the crisis in South Sudan, many are already counting the numbers and saying that this could actually have a huge impact on the state of the economy in Uganda in 2014. And joining me to help us understand both the progress of 2013, the state of the economy in 2013, and to make some perspective on 2014 is Andrew Mwenda, journalist, CEO of the Independent magazine, and also the old man of the clan. Andrew, it is Boxing Day, and I thought it was only prudent that we discuss the state of the economy that was initially projected to grow at slightly below 5, but could actually grow about 5% this year. Your own projections for this year, your own...
Yes, actually I'm surprised because
yes.
When I talk to many people in the private sector, they
yes.
say they are feeling the pinch. But always never look at the anecdotal evidence. You look at the aggregate of the economy.
Yes.
So I was told actually by the Minister of Finance, Maria Chwanuka, that the economy is likely to grow above something like 6.4%, which is surprising for me, given the fact that the state has not been spending, and because the state is not spending, people are not... an economy is a circular flow of income.
Yes.
My expenditure is your income, and your expenditure is another person's income. And you have what they call the income multiplier, which is the number of times an initial expenditure multiplies itself to give a final change in income. So if the government is not spending, it must impact the economy. So I do not know what it is that is happening in the aggregate economy that is sustaining economic growth at an impressive rate. That is one. Two, as you said, the crisis in South Sudan is going to have a devastating impact on Uganda. Sudan is the largest destination of Ugandan exports. If you have a war there and people are not spending, or people are not purchasing our goods, then you will have a slump in our export earnings. The third element is that although Uganda's economy has been growing at an impressive rate for the last 27 years, when President Museveni has been in power, what is saddening is that we have not seen an accompanying growth in the improvement of the quality of public goods and services delivered by the state to the citizen. Because if you go to Mulago and other hospitals in Uganda, if you go to government-owned schools or government-facilitated schools, what you encounter there is atrocious, really an atrocity. And I am conscious of the fact that the decline in the quality of public goods and services that are delivered by the state of Uganda, that decline is directly proportional to the amount of democratic contestation that is existing in this country. The third thing that you talked about is investment. If you look at investment, these oil companies right now, Talo, Sinuk, Total, they are not going to invest in oil. We will not get oil out of the ground because of bureaucratic inertia.
Yes.
Because of political gridlock. You know, Uganda will have reached the same stage as Thailand, and the same stage as the United States, whereby every single decision by the government is heavily contested by the opposition. But in Uganda, it's not even the opposition. NRM MPs will intervene and interfere and block anything. Then you have PPDA, you have the IGG, you have too many centers of power in Uganda for there to be effective and decisive decision making to allow the economy to function. So, one, we are stuck with oil. Uganda cannot proceed from the discovery of oil to actually getting the oil out of the ground, processing it and exporting it and even distributing it in this country. That won't happen in the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years because it's gridlock. Two, remember there had been a gridlock on contracting a company to build the dam at Karuma in the presence of acute power shortages. Yes. And why? Because some people who are close to the president, some of them family members, I'm told, others political allies, each one of them is representing a different company. Now you have about 5 companies bidding. Everybody uses the influence within the state to say, my company should be the one to get the contract. They go to court, they go to parliament, they go to the IGG, they go to PPDA, everywhere. Until, of course, the president was advised to literally act arbitrarily and break through the red tape and award the contract. Why should the president be the one awarding the contract for major construction contracts? That should certainly be done by the respective state institutions. But what I have seen is that political contestation, the dispersal of power among the diffuse fragments of the state, has led to paralysis in decision making, so that hardly can anything get done.
Andrew, many first of all questioned the government policies for 2013, that those could first of all have had investment perspectives by either oil companies or even energy companies in like just as you've said, bureaucracy, but also the fact that maybe we are overcautious as a parliament. And the reason why they were asking initially for the production sharing agreements to be brought on table, for us to have proper laws, oil laws that govern the industry. And what you say is that for us to actually do the things the right way, we're actually being bureaucratic, and that creates a gridlock. That rather is very unfortunate.
Morris, that is even not true. If you read Ugandan policies and laws, we have some of the best policies in the world. I was invited by the Prime Minister of Norway to speak to all these Norwegian leaders in they call the International Development NORAD, something like that, in Oslo. And in the letter of invitation, he said, look, we have, Norway has the best policy framework for oil in the whole world. That's what everyone says. And the letter of invitation was saying, look, we have read through Ugandan policies, the design of your institutions in regard to the management of oil. We've looked through your production sharing agreements, and we think you have the best policies and the best contracts and agreements that meet international standards of best practice. Can you imagine? These are the Norwegians,
yes,
telling an old man of my age. But why were they inviting me? They said, we need you to come and give a lecture on the political economy of oil. Because you see, regardless of how good your policies and contracts look on paper, how political power is organized, how political power is exercised, and how political power is distributed and reproduced in a given country has powerful implications on whether those policies will work. So what works is not necessarily the theoretical design of your institutions, the theoretical appearance of your policies and practices. What matters most is your politics. So I went to Oslo, yes, I think last year, yes, to give a speech on the political economy of Uganda, the organization of power, the exercise of power, the distribution of power. Let me tell you, Morris, the biggest problem Uganda is facing is that you have too many centers of power in Uganda that have almost equal weight on deciding whether you should have a right to a property, which is a contract, or a concession. I'll give you an example. Assuming you bid to build Karuma, you see, Parliament can pass a resolution. A parliamentary committee can recommend, and yes, parliamentary session can pass a resolution saying, we have cancelled your contract. Process, or just, even yes, just like they are attempting to cancel the remaining contract. Yes. That is one. Two, the IGG, somebody, an ignorant little person, whether for corrupt intent, ignorance, prejudice, whatever it is, can write to the IGG, and the IGG can come and stop. I have stopped the bidding process, the tendering process, in order to investigate, and the IGG will take 3 years to investigate. 3, PPDA can intervene at any one time arbitrarily and stop a contract. 4, the president at State House, arbitrarily, without any legal or constitutional authority, can also intervene. Yes. We in the media, if independent or any newspaper can write a story, it will create a hula baloo in the whole country, and the media, and then the politicians, to score political points, will jump onto the bandwagon and stop the contract. Let me ask you, Morris, you are an investor, you have 500 million you want to put in the country. How, for you to be able to win a contract, you need to bring on board about 8 different institutions: the media, PPDA, Parliament, State House, IGG, I can't count how many others, the contracts committee of the respective ministry. How, therefore, can you navigate all these institutions to be able to get a contract done? I think that in understanding that dispersal of power, you know, power needs to be concentrated. When you disperse it, it becomes weak and unable to act. Yes. You need to concentrate power. This idea that was brought here of checks and balances has been overused, and in overusing that institutional model, we have paralyzed the ability of the state to govern. You see, ultimately, government must be able to govern. I always tell people, government must be able to govern. I'll give you an example. In the private sector, like in developed economies, you have something called venture capital. If you talk, I have talked to the richest venture capitalists in the Silicon Valley, some of whom are my friends. They will tell you that for every 13 investments you make, you see, a venture capitalist will look at an idea brought by Morris and put money in it. For every 13 ideas they put in money, only one gets to work. So it's not, but for us, we're saying that for every decision the government of Uganda makes, it must be not only be good, it must produce the greatest results. But then we have put in place, so in order to achieve the perfect deal, we have made it impossible for the state of Uganda to get any deal at all. So ultimately, the state needs to be liberated from the too many controls that are hanging on its hands. Now, of course, I may be even making the wrong argument. Let me argue against my own argument. Yes. Sometimes ask myself, is this distribution and dispersal of power across very many diffuse fragments of the state because of donors promoting this idea of checks and balances?
Yes, sometimes.
Or is it an actual reflection of, is it a reflection of the actual distribution of power in Uganda? Because you see, power in Uganda may be effective power. You leave formal power, you can centralize power formally through a law. But effective power may remain diffused, rather dispersed among diffuse fragments of the state.
People, yes.
Whether they are constituencies called Baganda, NRM historicals, called Muslims, called Christians, whatever it is, it may remain dispersed.
Yes.
When effective power is dispersed, it does not matter, you can centralize power in the law. But each attempt to award a contract, you may find the president's cousin, president's son, the president's daughter, the president's whatever, all of them may converge at State House, and you concentrate power there. The factions within the society will be reflected at the factions at State House.
Yes.
So I am not very sure whether the current contestations over contracting in Uganda, public contracting, public tendering, whether it is a reflection of the actual distribution of power in our society, and therefore we must resign ourselves to this fate, or it is because of the fragmentation of power across many state institutions. So the two of them may be in balance. Now, what would be the solution?
Yes.
I tell you, Maurice, to resolve the problems of Uganda, this economy, you need to privatize every single thing. You need to look for market mechanisms. Because power in the state is dispersed, and there is a lot of contestation of state decision making, it becomes better for you to rely on the market. That is why the United States functions. Most of the things, railways, airlines, everything is owned by the private sector. Because if I am
and then government ceases to have control, but regulates. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, so the government's role must be restricted to regulation, and even regulation itself must be kept at the very minimum.
Right.
Let the best regulator be the market. You see, sometimes the most effective regulator, I have told you,
is the market itself.
You remember the other day on
Yes.
Tuesday when we were discussing the pornography law?
Yes.
I told you the market will regulate pornography
Right.
and eliminate those who are promoting pornography and reward those who are promoting good journalism.
Andrew, we can continue this discussion because we still need to look at 2014 and your projections and your thinking into 2014 and what might come out of that in another discussion probably next week as we run into 2014. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Newsnight.